All right, what's going on, everybody? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Spring Legion Podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Farrior, alongside co-host Austin Sills again. This week is a very good episode, one of which we have looked forward to for some time now, and going to be a conversation, kind of a long time coming, worth having. So, guest today is Dave Owens with the Pinhoti Project, a very familiar name around the turkey hunting industry, and those who follow him know him well and kind of know where he stands on a lot of stuff when it comes to turkey hunting, and knows that he is dang good at it. So we dive into a few different topics, and some of which that I think were, like I said, just conversations needed to be had about a few things in the turkey hunting world, and this was honestly probably at the top of one of my favorite podcast episodes we've done yet. Just the chance to hear kind of his headspace as far as turkey hunting goes, and what he knows it to be, and a lot of good points. Seals, hate you weren't here to listen in on the conversation and chime in, but I'll tell you right now, it's a good one, folks. So hope y'all tune in and listen to the whole thing. We go into the early days of Pinhoti and kind of what it kind of started for, and kind of the missions behind that, and the reasons why he felt, kind of led to produce something like that and get it out there, and the ways he's using his platform now, and all the way to his story of his first turkey. So I guess the one that started it all. So got a lot of good stuff on the way. We're going to knock out a few updates real quick. We got a little surprise release. We mentioned it, I think, last week. We did get it. It does look pretty dang good. That being a new Bottomland snapback. Kind of added it to the collection of them mesh backs that we released a couple weeks ago, and the first not original Bottomland product I think we've ever had with Spring Legion logo on it.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Mm-mm. Yep. So we decided to, and that was not necessarily requested. It was just something that we had never seen before. Was the trucker style snapback in a new Bottomland pattern. We got a hold of them, got as many as we could, and threw the logo on it, and wanted to get them in time before the convention rolled around, and wound up getting them a little early. So they're released on the website right now. They're released Sunday. Y'all go check them out, springlegion.com. And that, we got a couple new decals, the Genesis 27.3 decal, kind of a revamped version of that. What else we got? We got a couple of different things. Box quality, those did really well. A lot of people jumped on that wagon, released a couple weeks ago. The Not Subject to Change 2022 T-shirt, got them out there. And one more pretty big announcement, Seals. You want to hit that?
Yeah, February 23rd from 6 to 8, Hunter and I will be recording a live podcast, Q&A, giving some raffle stuff off with our buddies from Primo's Lake and Jordan, be at Rick's Cafe in Starkville.
Yep. Gonna return back to Starkville. A lot of good times were had at Rick's back several years ago. And a lot of good times were had up in Starkville in the Turkey Woods, so there will be a lot of stories revisited. I know Lake and I have kind of exchanged a few on their podcast from last year on the Speed the Language podcast, but I'm sure we'll dive back into them, and y'all have plenty more to throw in there. And looking forward to shaking hands with a lot of people and getting to see what all's changed, what all stayed the same. And I don't know, I might slip over and see if any turkeys are left. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time. That, and speaking of live podcasts, we got the podcast booth at the NWTF convention this year. So y'all swing by, and we're going to have the merch booth. We're still constructing that 10x10 booth as efficiently as we possibly can. But yeah, y'all swing by the podcast booth. We got a little bit of a lineup already kind of in stone on some guests we're going to kind of have hop in. I know I talked to Adam with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fishery, and Parks last night, exchanging a few emails with him, and I think Dave and I actually mentioned him on, later on in the phone call about people to reach out to, in your state. And he's a good fella, a turkey hunter, one of those who he understands. He
understands and cares.
Exactly. A smart dude too, like real smart. So he's going to hop in. He's going to really, he said he would love the opportunity just to, explain a bunch of questions that a lot of people, just everyday turkey hunters don't get the chance to hear. And it's kind of one of those, he knows what they're wondering because he does hear it a lot, and he knows, from the turkey hunter standpoint, this is what I would be wondering too. And so he's going to come in and just really, I don't know if he's just going to speak necessarily in Mississippi or he's going to speak, kind of how stuff works overall. I have no idea, but that'll be a good one. That's just the first one that came to mind. We'll have a lot more, but we'll be live streaming that some way or another. So, but that's all I can think of as far as kind of updates, as many as we've piled in our mind these past few weeks. So we'll get into today's conversation with Dave Owens of the Pinhoti Project. Y'all listen in.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Hey, man, how are you?
Oh, shoot, I can't complain too much. Living the dream.
Heck yeah. Really thank you for taking the time to hop on an episode real quick. I know you're a busy man, and just taking the time to bless us with some knowledge. I really do appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, man, anytime. I hope it's knowledge that you can call what I'm going to give somebody. I don't know. We can have conversations for sure. I mean, I'll tell you what not to do. I promise you I got that down pat, I think.
I heard that, and likewise, we'll just shoot the bull on a few things, and whatever comes about of it is what's meant to be. But for those that might not know, just in the realm of turkey hunting, kind of your motives on stepping out and creating something that really just introduces real turkey hunting, the good, the bad, the ugly, all sides of it. And I do tip my cap to you for doing something that's not easy to do when it comes to stuff like that, because I have given it a whirl and I'm not too great at it. And got a whole new respect for folks like you that are able to go out there and do that day in and day out and make it real to those watching.
Yeah, it's definitely, even for someone who videoed turkeys a little bit before we kind of went down the path that we've taken, it's different when you hold the camera for, I don't know, a dozen days of spring, just when it's convenient, which is essentially what I was doing before the Pinhoti Project. Whenever, things would be easy. We were hunting something that was close or something, like I said, that was convenient. To holding that camera for every single morning for, and going at it as hard as we do, it was definitely even a wake-up call for me, somewhat knowing what to expect. For folks that don't know what to expect, it would really be mind-blowing. But it's enjoyable seeing the finished product and some of the messages you get. I mean, just introducing people to the sport, and not as much that because I don't know. I mean, I assume my content may pique some interest of someone who had never been turkey hunting, but almost just showed people that did turkey hunt what else was out there. How much more in depth they could go with the craft, and how much more enjoyment there was out there within reach. I mean, it was literally, just a minor bit of effort, and you could really get so much more out of what you were already learning to do in your backyard. So, yeah, it was really, really cool. That's kind of what this whole thing started as.
Well, I think it definitely gets that message across and gets it across very, very well put together. And that's kind of, I was actually, last week's episode, we had our buddy David Hawley, Wild Turkey Report, hopped on, and he mentioned, kind of the past year or so, somebody had mentioned competition in the realm of just, I guess, turkey hunting content. I don't know really what they were getting at between, the different quote unquote brands of content and just providers of turkey hunting something. And we both kind of laughed at it, that there is no competition, and that we're all kind of in this together, and that like brands support like brands, and I like a lot what you're doing, and I know I was talking to him about the same, and just supporting good turkey hunters, and just got their mind in the right spot. And and I have gotten a handful of folks have asked me before, you need to start video and start putting it on YouTube and stuff, and that's how you're going to grow the brand, yada yada. And I'm thinking, man, I've tried it before, and it's pretty dang hard. And I'll tell him, I said, man, it's not needed, because there's a guy out there by the name of Dave Owens who already does this, and he does it pretty dang good. And there's not much I can say that he's not out there showing himself. So,
well, I appreciate that, and that whole we kicked this thing off. We did it I guess the first year we filmed was 2018, and then the way that was structured was essentially video it and get home after season and plug away as fast as I could and get it out there. Lord, I think I released content plumb through November that year because I just put it all out there, you know. Obviously, that structure has kind of changed with the last several years to just, you know, have it available when folks are a little bit more interested, because the majority of folks don't think about turkey 365 days a year somehow. You know, we structure the content a little bit different now. But, yeah, getting back to like the quote-unquote competition between brands, I kind of laugh at that because I just think it's so silly. I mean, Who are you competing against? What are you competing for, I guess, is my question.
Who wins?
Yeah, who wins? And how would you even know if you were the winner? You know what I mean? So there's none of that. And I had one of the other brands that kind of popped up and kind of reached out to me before he even kind of launched things and was like, hey, love what you do. It's inspiring. I've always filmed hunts. I'm going to do something very similar to what you do. I hope you don't, you know, I hope you're not, doesn't, you know, I hope it doesn't anger you, you know, kind of that kind of deal. And, basically the way I told him, I was like, look, man, the more the merrier. I mean, the more folks that we have out there with a pure message and respecting the game and presenting it in a way that's tasteful to folks who may not ever have turkey hunted or don't turkey hunt, more the merrier. You know, I don't think you can get enough, because as long as you're not doing something that's distasteful and shedding, you know, casting shade on what we do and what we love to do, then I don't see any problem with it, because they watch my video doesn't mean they can't watch your video. Exactly. Because they buy my T-shirt doesn't mean they can't buy your hat. Like I do like originality for people to be authentic, because everybody goes about things a little bit different. You know what I mean? But as far as, you know, being upset because somebody else comes out with a brand and does something similar to what I do, I mean, like I said, man, it pushes the envelope for everybody. You know, if I see somebody doing something I think is creative, and it just pushes me not to kill more turkeys or to, you know, the object of this game was never to see how many turkeys you kill. It's always been, I don't know, just putting it out there for the grind that we experienced and the reasons that we did it. I've never been able to. You're a lot better with words than I am, obviously. You're an author, you're writing books and that kind of stuff. But I've just been able to put a camera in my face and not be awkward, so that some of those emotions and passions that I couldn't find the words for, people could watch.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping that that's kind of what hit home with folks.
Well, I think that's very accurate right there on putting a camera in your face and not being awkward and capturing what would be in words, because I'm not going to say I'm great at words. I'm good at misspelling them, and hopefully whoever's editing them can tell me the right form of there, and there. But at the same time, can't capture those descriptions. So, you know, just using your talents for good. And I know you got a lot of good coming out of your platforms and stuff. But some of the things that kind of differentiate the mission behind yours is something that I think is much needed and much welcomed in the turkey hunt community, especially, you know, I say us. I know there's more than just you and I that think about it 365 days a year. But the very concentrated niche of turkey hunters as we know them to be, that just really, you know, think about it near about every day. And if they don't, something's wrong. They must be sick or something. But what makes turkey hunting different to you? I know that's a question I get asked a lot, and it's hard to find a right answer, but there's something separates turkey hunting from the other types of outdoor realms.
The knee-jerk response is always vocabulary that you get to carry on with the animal. I like I love the interaction, and that's what deer hunting and that kind of stuff lacks for me. I don't get interaction. You can read sign and you can, you know, kind of outthink them. But I still, even when I win at that game, I don't feel like I had the interaction like I do with turkeys. You know, I can strike a 2-year-old turkey at 12:04 in the afternoon and kill him at 12:07, and I feel like I was able to create a bond almost. Like There was an appreciation between he and I amongst that interchange there. I haven't been able to find anything else that kind of trips that trigger for me, and I don't know what caused turkeys to do that. I've said it many times. I was always that kid that would hear something and be able to mimic the sound. I've always been, the kid to sit on the back porch, sit the bird feeder, and use my hands to do the morning dove and have them fly and land on the peak of the roof.
Oh, yeah.
I've been that guy. So just like hearing turkeys and wanting to mimic them, and then try to strive for excellence at that craft, and then moving that into, I was lucky enough to have a father who was ate up with the outdoors, deer hunting primarily, and just had us outside, and for some reason just got that thirst for wanting to be outside. And then it became, spending countless hours outside alone, which we had this conversation. I was having this conversation with somebody just the other day about how unacceptable almost that is now. But it just as a young kid with a pellet rifle wandering around for like hours, just wandering on land that we didn't have a clue who owned it, that our parents probably did. We didn't. We lived at the end of a cul-de-sac and was lucky enough to have ground to just go drag our feet around on and harass songbirds and squirrels and everything else. And then you just learn woodsmanship. You just learn the things that you can't buy.
Right.
And that is what I really enjoy about turkey hunting, is just getting the everyday skill set seems to sharpen a little bit more, no matter how many years you've done this. And I guess that can probably be said with any craft, but turkey hunting for some reason just speaks a little stronger to me, whether it be the craft conversation, the craft of reading the land, the craft of reading the sign, knowing what they're going to do before they do it. And I don't know, just like reading a turkey's gobble, like
right.
hearing the intensity or the frequency, or just being able to almost hear an animal who we don't know their dialogue. We don't know what he's saying. We don't know what she's saying, but just being able to hear it and just almost feel the emotion and communicate. And that only comes with a lot of experience in doing it. So
Right.
all of those little bitty things kind of builds on that turkey hunting attraction, I guess you can say.
Oh yeah, and I feel weird saying it, but I know that talking to folks who kind of quote unquote get it, that sixth sense you kind of have. Obviously, none of us know exactly what a turkey's ever saying, whether it be a hen or a gobble, but the feeling you get and some kind of I call it like a magnetic fixation towards something. It just, you hear it and you think that's what this means, that's what that means, and it's and I don't know if I've ever dove into this on our podcast before, but a couple of my close buddies know it, that back when I was younger, I think I'd say, just like you talking about scavenging around with a pellet rifle behind the house every now and then, got me thinking about I used to, every spring break, I'd sit at the house, and we had about 20 acres, but it was not wooded or anything, but around the back fence corner, we had a little disced up area that we'd shoot doves out of every fall, and it's kind of behind the pond dam, at least enough where a kid can go back there and not see the houses. And to me, that was the woods for a little while. And
yeah,
I'd go back there with my dad would have just buckets of mouth calls, I felt like, in a little hunting closet he had, and I'd go grab one and go back there, put on camouflage and stuff in the spring, go sit by a tree, no gun, no nothing, and just and I in my mind, it was like, just go play with the turkeys. And I'd go back there and just call and try. And then, lo and behold, some hens or some jakes or something will walk up, and I would just have, hours just messing with them. I mean, I apologize to whoever did try to hunt those turkeys for that 3 years, because I probably royally educated them. But it was just, and there was no purpose in going back there. I wasn't trying to, learn or practice or anything in a kid's mind. I was just having fun. And, and now it's one of those things that I get just as excited to have a group of jakes come around me, just being peculiar. And, I know sometimes they're smart, but a lot of times they're up there just kind of checking things out, and it looks like they're begging to get in trouble, and just watching their mannerisms, the hen's mannerisms, trying to mimic her cutting back at you. and stuff like that. And I mean, that gets me not more excited, but that gets me just as excited as a 2-year-old firing up mid-morning and knowing you're in a good spot for a good show to come.
It's all part of the experience, man. It builds. It's like there's no one thing.
Right.
If it's not, if you walked out every time and struck a gobbler and yelped him up and killed him, that wouldn't make the experience. The experience encompasses every little thing. And I don't want to get all spiritual here, but like you said, the interaction with the hens, bumping into Jakes every couple of days, having an owl, calling in owls in the morning, being pestered by crows and aggravated because you can't hear because they won't leave you alone. All of those little bitty things are just building blocks to build that whole experience. And I don't think it's just the uncertainty of every spring break. Every time the day breaks during spring, there's just uncertainty there is how it's going to play out. Sure, there's similarities. That's all that experience that we're talking about, knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to say it, and what you need to say, all comes with experience. But still, there's a bit of uncertainty every time the day breaks, and I think that's what draws us to those interactions that we could potentially have every time the day breaks. There's potential there to have another interaction, learn something, or whatever it may be. And
you hit on it a little bit earlier, just the intangibles, and I know that can be really broad. But speaking of just a guy that don't need much to go out there and kill a turkey, I know you got a couple trophies in your back pocket for calling turkeys, but when it comes to a bunch of stuff you buy in stores, it's not as much. I'd say it's you do a good job of proving that it's not always needed. Just stress on the aspect of woodsmanship, because that's something I try to preach just through whatever outlet I can, whether it be to an audience of 2 or 200, and usually not much too more than that. But just using woodsmanship and the fact that that's all that's needed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you could buy experience, there's enough money out there now to where we probably wouldn't have any more turkeys. So luckily you can't.
Right.
But I'll try to hit on this without diving too far down into any type of rabbit hole. But
they're welcomed.
And that was one of the main purposes that, when we decided to do this Pinhoti Project thing, was we saw so many gimmicks, and I don't know if gimmicks are the right words. I'm not saying they're not successful. I'm not saying they don't wind up with dead meat and blood. I mean, unfortunately, that's what a lot of people define success as. So I'm not saying, when I say a gimmick, I'm not saying that it's not going to put dead turkeys in front of you. What we intended to do was just bring an approach that we felt was more fulfilling. Not saying that one person's way is right, one person's way is wrong. My biggest fear was, and I came what I felt like was from a unique perspective, because I came up at the perfect time when I was learning to turkey hunt on my own. I didn't have any mentors. There wasn't anybody around to show me. The handful of people that I did know that turkey hunted were real close-lipped. They didn't offer much more than your fucking purse sounds good. And that was about all they ever told me. And I just kind of for some reason, was a determined kid that wanted to be a turkey hunter. And man, I was spinning a web, and I just a bird landed on the windowsill and just blew my mind. I'm like a Jack Russell Terrier when a squirrel runs across the yard. I mean, my mind was strobe. Anyways, but what I was wanting, I'll get back to what I was trying to say there, was I didn't want, back to that unique perspective. I came up in a time where I had the woodsmanship came really early. The foundation came really early from chasing the squirrels and whatever we just mentioned. It quickly dove into turkeys being the main fundamental teacher in those woodsmanship skills and whatnot. And then I was exposed to, that was about the time the strutting decoys became a fad. And the blinds became popular, and I dove right into it. Like, I was impressionable. Like, I was still learning a lot. I was killing turkeys, but I wasn't too good to say I'm not going to change my ways, you know. And I remember killing a turkey down in South Florida, coming back with the turkey with intentions on having the turkey mounted. We got back here. for one reason or the other, the turkey got wet on the transport and the cape was no good for mounting. So I took the turkey and completely caped the turkey out. And essentially what I wound up with, to cut this story a little bit short, is a strutting decoy with real feathers. It was basically a B-Mobile before B-Mobile was B-Mobile. Yep. So, Jesus, it's the reaction that we got from turkeys with that thing. For a full season, I had access to some really good ground at the time. Me and a buddy were running around on his grandparents' place and his dad's place, and had several hundred acres, or no, not several, probably close to 1,000 acres worth of prime river bottom ground in 2 different counties, and we could turkey hunt a lot. And we were taking that thing around and killing turkeys for a full season. Man, we were watching turkeys with binoculars fly up on the limb and going in the dark and popping the blind up and putting the decoys out and letting them fly down to the decoys and shooting them. And it didn't take me long. I had fortunately been exposed to enough of the woods hunting and the calling, and that's what I was really intrigued by to begin with. Found myself not doing that nearly as much, and it was taken away from the experience. And I'll never forget the moment that it clicked for me. And I've told this story before, but same buddy and I had a blind set up. We went in there to kill the turkey one morning before work, and didn't work out. The turkey didn't come in the power line right away, and we went back in there in the evening, and we had been in the blind for maybe 30 minutes, and hear him and 6 or 8 hens come out in the power line right away, probably 300 yards away. We had that little strutting decoy out there in front of us, and that turkey folded up, left every one of those hens, and ran to that decoy. And I shot him out of a blind at about 12 yards at about, 4:30 in the afternoon. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. Like, enough is enough. Like that, the game, he just lost his life, and I don't feel like the game was fair. Right. Not that it's ever fair, because they don't know they're being hunted, but it felt dirty, and that's just me talking. Not if that's the way somebody else wants to do it. But I started this Pinhoti Project because I was afraid that type of content was all that was out there for people to consume, and there was going to be somebody out there that fell straight into that position of just shooting turkeys like that. And they weren't going to be fortunate enough to have that little bit of previous experience that I had to know that there was more to this turkey hunting thing than just that. So I was like, there needs to be some content out there to show folks that there's a whole world of interaction that you're going to be missing if that's the only way you choose to hunt these things. Absolutely. So that was probably a very long, drawn-out explanation as to the things that I think are going to be missed, and you can't buy the type of skill set you will eventually acquire if you just hunt these things with what's between your ears and minimal gimmicks and gadgets and whatnot. So,
man, yeah, drawn out. That was very descriptive. I mean, that was I think with images, I feel like, and just knowing that I've been in that position before, and kind of just reflecting back on and the same kind of just light switch type moment. I think depending on the crowd you're talking to will draw one ear or not the other ear, but it's safe to say a lot of us and a lot of turkey hunters today that they've all been in both sides, I guess you'd say, or the lack of challenge there was overridden by the feeling of hunting a turkey the way you're talking about.
And it's part of probably something else worth mentioning. It's just, in my opinion, it's all part of a maturity process as a turkey hunter. There goes, and this is something that was weighed heavily on me not so long ago. And probably the reason that I do a lot of the stuff that I do now is the guilt that I felt from the many years of doing stuff similar to what I was just saying. Kill at all costs. I would just kill and catch as much as you can, that kind of mentality.
Yep.
And I think that's the stage that we all have to go through, and it's unavoidable. I mean, a lot of folks are like, all these kids nowadays. Well, I could just about guarantee they went through it too.
Yep.
They didn't. The thing now is there's a few more tools available that makes the killing process a little simplified. So therefore, the people basically that killing stage is a little bit more efficient now. But I think we all went through it. And the best explanation that I could give to the folks that I was trying to explain that to was, we all went through it. It's our responsibility of those people who I feel like I have somewhat gotten over the hump, I hope. Not to say that I don't still need to kill some, because I do. I'm not going to be one of those guys that says I can sit beside a tree and watch turkeys get killed all year without squeezing the trigger myself, because I'd be lying to your face.
Yep.
I'm there to win. When I put my boots on, when I close the door, I'm there to win. Like, I only get a certain number of mornings to do this, and you know, that's why I do it. If it wasn't for that satisfaction, I wouldn't love them as much as I do, and everything that I've done to try to save as many as I hopefully will someday do would have never came full circle if I wasn't able to hunt them. So That being said, I'm not going to sit here and be like some type of, I've reached the mountain, I don't have to shoot them anymore, because that would be a bald-faced lie. But that being said, I think we all go through a maturity process, and it's those of us that are on the other side of the hump responsibility to explain to those folks that are about to reach or in the middle of that killing phase, that kill as much as you can phase, to just try to shorten it, just try to kind of expedite it.
Yep.
Let those folks know that, like, hey, you've shown that you can kill them. You've shown that if no self-imposed rules apply, then you can go out there and murder them. You're a murderer. You're a killer. You are whatever you want to call yourself. You have accomplished that. But now realize that this resource that we are enjoying is fragile. It's much more fragile than I ever realized until, the last handful of years. The resource is not exponentially infinite. You know what I mean? I mean, it is a fragile resource, and we're just as Hawley mentioned, talking about him, as he mentioned, we're just two really bad hatches away from a really bad deal, So helping those folks that are in that kill phase of the maturity process kind of get through it quicker, realize that they've accomplished that kill phase, and like, hey, you've done it. Let's
whatever you want to call
yourself, being a little bit
you
more.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so anyways,
I remember. I know exactly what
you're
talking about, man. I definitely remember that, and you're on top of the world there for a season or two, and there ain't nothing can kind of get in your way. You kind of just and don't nobody want to say the word luck in any of that, but it comes into play a little bit. Just those good years you have, and you figured it out. You figured out how to hunt turkeys. You're kind of proving to yourself more than anything, and then letting it come outward, and then kind of falling into that trap, as you mentioned, when it comes to gimmicks and stuff like that. And I try to put it into words now that, I've luckily been able to get out of that, within, like you said, the past handful of years, really, stressing the notion of I was trying to make turkey hunting easier rather than becoming a better turkey hunter. And I think, that'll, take woodsmanship years off of you the longer you spend trying to make it easier than become better at what you're doing. And then also you can't even fathom the appreciation of the one you do kill, the real way, the hard way, however you want to call it. The respect you have for that one bird is so much more than the ones that are just automatic. I'll take the ones you earn because you walked 20 miles the day before, didn't hear a gobble, and you just happen to strike one up close to where you first listened off the first ridge and wind up killing him off the roost after 15 minutes. Some people call it easy. You throw in the 20-mile silent walk the day before, and I think they're all earned when you kind of adapt to that more mature way about it.
Yeah, you earn all of them. I've always said that when one shape, form, or fashion, you earn them all. I don't think you're handed any of them, really.
Nope.
One way or another, you've plowed your own row if you're lucky enough to put your hands on one. So
take them when you can get it. And it's one of those things. I try not to throw my opinion on them too hard, but like you said, you did a good job of summing it up. Is you helping them out by putting this content out and showing them the stuff that they could be experiencing and the stuff that they're missing when they kind of don't heed the woodsmanship aspect.
it's really a fine line to toe there. You know, I mean, you don't want to hurt folks as far as their engagement and their interact. I mean, you don't want to push them away from enjoying whatever it is they enjoy. It's just that I was afraid that, like I said, I had been through the whole process, and I had figured out what to me was the most enjoyable way of doing it. And I just saw some people potentially going through their whole life without ever having that experience because they were just they just happened into some shortcuts or some whatever you want to call them, and that's just the way they thought it was, and they got their turkeys. They killed their limit of turkeys every year, so they were, you know, as good as they needed to be. And I just wanted to kind of expose folks to something that may just be a little better. You know what I mean? Not saying that it is for them. They may try it and say, nope, I like watching my turkeys fly down in the green field and attack my decoy. Yep. I like watching that decoy interaction. Okay, then that's what they like. But I just didn't want them to not be exposed to their back to a tree and nothing between them and the gobbler but air, and really, you know, his mind against yours. And it's a special thing, and I didn't want anybody to be deprived of that interaction.
Right, man, I love it. That's kind of get me fired up thinking about, you know, just the mornings to come. I did want to throw in one. I sent Dave a quick outline on stuff, and I told him hopefully we'll make it past one before either of us get down a rabbit hole. But one popped in my mind here right before we wrap it up. Your first turkey, when did the hook set into you on, you know, this is something that I got a special, you know, a love for?
Man, I mean, there's my first one, and man, a lot of people say it wasn't usually the first, or it wasn't the first one. It was like the one they called up or whatever. But I don't really know which one set the hook. I worked so hard for my first turkey. I wanted it so bad, and I was so ignorant to everything turkey hunting that when it happened, like I was 14, but I did it all on my own, and I was by myself. I mean, it was just, there was so much appreciation for the success. And in that day and time, the success was the dead turkey. There was no experience. There was no making sure everything, I mean, it was having that dead turkey in my hands. That was what I defined as success. And make no doubt about it, that's what caused that day to be etched in my memory.
Yep.
Like I said, my dad wasn't a turkey hunter, worked a lot. My mom was, he used all his vacation time for deer season, so there wasn't a lot of flexibility when it came to springtime and turkey hunting. And my mom would, I aggravated her enough where, believe it or not, we had some family friends that had permission, that had 20 or 40 acres. I can't remember. It wasn't a ton of ground, but it had turkeys on it. As a matter of fact, it had a lot of turkeys on it. And, gosh, I pestered those turkeys. And my mother would go drop me out before daylight in their driveway and pick me up in the driveway at lunch every weekend, every Saturday, and maybe Sundays too. I can't remember, but for sure every Saturday. Any free day I had, and it was turkey season, she was kicking me out, knowing that I could walk to the friend's house there if I needed something. But man, that's how I killed my first turkey. I aggravated those turkeys for a full season up there as a 13-year-old kid, and at 14, I was up there and killed myself a Jake. And I look back on that now, and I can still vividly remember some of the interactions that I had with turkeys on that little piece of property there. I remember crawling down a fence line, yelping to a gobbler, strutting with a hen up on this little hardwood ridge like it was yesterday. And that was so many years ago. But I remember it, and then it was those interactions before I even killed a turkey that had me so thirsty to put my hands on one. And when it finally happened, it was like a little 13-pound Jake, and dude, I had won the lottery. You know what I mean? I remember grabbing that turkey, and I had never touched one.
Yeah.
So when I watch people sit back behind turkeys, their tail fans to me look like, I expected it to be like a sheet of plywood. I expected it to be heavy and stiff and firm, and like I didn't even realize what it was going to feel like. It never dawned on me that it's just feathers. So when I sat behind that turkey and did the pose that I had seen in so many magazines and lifted his tail fan up, I was like, this is so awesome.
Man.
Like, this is just the greatest thing ever. And it blew my mom's mind away when she showed up and I had a turkey laying beside me in that driveway. And God, I ruled the world. It was the next year that I actually, we had moved and we lived somewhere. And here again, you were young. I got on a four-wheeler. My parents probably knew whose property that I was on, and it was kind of an understood thing. You can hunt off this road. But, man, we just went. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this field, we were riding dirt bikes and stuff, and we always see turkeys in this field. And I remember going out there on opening day, and turkey was gobbling off the back of that field about 150 yards, and I set up and yelped that turkey right to the end of that field and shot him. And it was like, you know what? I just became a turkey hunter. Like, I know how to do this now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you kind of had that feeling and that mentality. And obviously since then I've been schooled so many times, you can't, you know, it'd be more than a 120-page book, I can promise you, if you started trying to detail every time that I've been whooped. But that being said, that was the first time that I had actually had a turkey come in looking for me, you know.
Man.
I can't say that it took me any more than that little Jake that I worked so hard for, though.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. And that just makes me reflect on those same feelings and the indescribables and the stuff that you're grabbing a tail fan for the first time. I mean, you're talking to a guy who still obsesses over the reflection of, you know, feathers, the iridescence and the feet and the snoot. I'm like a little kid with a dead turkey in front of me. I'm inspecting it like, you know, I ain't never seen one before, whether it's, you know, the first or the last one I've killed. It just blows my mind, every single one of them. They're all a little different and just all of them got their little character and just, I mean, it's hard to describe. That's a good way of describing just that feeling when those hooks set deep.
Yeah, it's just, and a lot of people, especially, man, since, like I said, I video every flipping thing. So a lot of people, I think, get this idea that I do stuff for the camera. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there couldn't be anything further from I mean, I can promise you that I have not changed. Okay, that's a lie. I've had to change things to incorporate the cameras and make them available and keep them on and keep batteries charged. I mean, I've had to make those type of changes. But when it comes to the admiration I have for a bird, for holding him and holding his wings and looking at his wings and looking at his wing patch. For some reason, I have a fascination with wing patches and like the tail fan and just like all of that. And being obsessed with every single one, that there's not a bit of fakeness in any of that. And I hope people can trust that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I would never shoot a turkey. I just read this big thread, and I can't remember where it was at, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. But essentially, it was two guys that did some TV show, and people were, I don't know if they were giving them a hard time or whatever the situation was, and it was essentially like, you've got to understand, we've got to produce X amount of episodes, and we've got to have at least 2 kill shots on each episode. So this is a job for us, like, you know. And I'm like, if it ever becomes that, if sponsor X ever says, well, you've got to give us 14 kill shots in order to receive this compensation, then the money's off the table. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in the animal losing its life for that. That is appalling to me. Yeah. So if it ever becomes something more, I mean, I try to center all my content around the hunt itself. I want it to be around the journey. The shot is just an exclamation point that's, you know, not even necessary sometimes. But I tried to center the content around the journey it takes to get there. And that way, if there's not a shot, you still got the journey. You're going to get the journey every time because I'm going.
Yep.
So we can learn win, lose, or draw. But the kill is just part of the process in order to put the period to the sentence, I guess you could say.
No, I know what you mean. And I don't doubt any authenticity there, just kind of just hearing the etched memories you got from those moments, and you can't buy those. You can't put a dollar value on a lot of the stuff you're talking about, and that's encouraging to hear. I hope the YouTube channel, the everything you got going just takes off like wildfire as it has been. It's just good stuff. I think everybody could benefit from, and I hope that's what people are paying attention to is the intangibles you speak of and the feelings associated with them, and I think everybody can kind of draw their own connection to those types of instances and the stuff that goes into it that's not always talked about on other outlets, I guess you'd say.
Yep. I hope it's relatable for folks, and I hope that they can and I'm always available for criticism. I try my best to have thick skin because I know you're not going to make everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I hope that it's relatable for more folks than it's not relatable for. And it's just I hope it represents something that they can do for themselves. I wanted to hold my whole motto is effort. Success through effort, not fortune. Like I don't want turkey hunting is a very special thing, and given the platform that I somehow just kind of fell into with the Pinhoti Project, I found myself kind of really like digging deep and looking into the mirror and figuring out if I was really doing what was right for the resource and really doing, and I knew my intentions were the best, but, when you forge new ground, you've never done it before, you don't have a teacher, you kind of have to learn as you go. So I really had to look in the mirror and a lot of times and go, okay, what, 10 years from now, is the Pinhoti Project going to have helped turkeys and the heritages and the history and all of the just rich traditions we have here in the Southeast for turkey? Is it going to be known as something that enriched that, or is it going to be a stain? And I wanted to make dang sure that when folks thought about Dave Owens or the Pinhoti Project or whatever small little impact flicker it may be in history when it comes to turkey hunting, I'm hoping that it was a positive one that kind of centered around the resource. It wasn't around some figure. It was around the actual, it was around the prize that really gives us the tingles. When it comes to springtime and when we hear the whippoorwills is what we think about. I wanted it to be centered around that.
And yeah, and you speak of just the impact you're leaving. Before we wrap it up, I refuse not to mention a lot of the good stuff you got going on with using that outlet, with using whether it be social media or YouTube or anything, just the Save the Legs shirt, the affiliation you and Backwoods Grinds got benefiting Turkeys for Tomorrow and other stuff like that. If you wouldn't mind mentioning that to our listeners, just so they can check it out and hopefully pitch on in with those kind of motives.
Yeah, it's kind of just a continuation of what I was just mentioning. I wanted to make sure that I could sleep well at night, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I kind of reverting back to something we mentioned earlier, like just a heavy weight on my shoulders for feeling guilty for the way I had conducted myself during that killing phase of the maturity process. But it really helped when I got to digging and you hear dialogue and stuff and conversation from like Fox Hayes.
Yeah.
And him talking about, for the first half of his life, he killed as much and caught as much as he could. And you get to realizing that that's a necessary process for everybody. But just as to kind of compound on that and doing what I do now, considering that I get to hunt as much as I do, I get to expose as many people to hunting as like I do, and I've provoked more folks, I think, to spend more time outside and to spend more go to more places and extend their seasons, whether it be on the front end or the back end.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that. At the same time, I want to make sure that's putting more pressure on the resource. There's no way around it. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that these people that we were motivating, the additional hours that they spent outside or the additional members of the turkey hunting community that we created, I wanted to make sure that they realized that the resource was first and foremost. And I wanted to make sure that any little avenue that I could, given the platform, like I said, that I had fallen into, if we could kind of get the people that were so excited about taking from the resource and make sure there was a proper balance there from those people that were taking and willing to give back. We can grow lopsided as a hunting community, I think, I honestly think that may be a little bit of our issue that we're seeing now, that our hunting community has kind of matured to the point to where maybe the population is a little bit lopsided on takers versus givers, because the people of the 70s and the 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I mean, those top turkey hunters, they had to be givers because there wasn't enough of the resource to sustain itself without them wanting to make sure that it was plentiful, to make sure that they had what they needed, and to make sure that they were hunted responsibly, so that the resource wasn't over harvested or whatnot. And I just want to make sure to use my platform that, yeah, we're taking these birds off the landscape. We're hunting them. We love them, but you can love them as much as you want to. But once he's dead, he's dead. You can't, unfortunately, we can't breathe life back into him. So in saying all that, the conservation efforts in trying to find some answers through research of how we can possibly conduct ourselves, whether it be from taking from the resource or providing the resource with the necessities that it needs to be more plentiful, whether that be habitat or season structure or however we need to conduct ourselves, trying to help fund that research and get people motivated about research and trusting the numbers and trusting the data, getting involved with your agency, becoming, getting on a first name basis with the folks that are making the calls up at your agency. And just kind of realizing that this, like I said, that's something that came to my attention some years ago, which was that this resource is fragile. It isn't infinite. Like, we've got to be cognizant in what we're doing here, and wanting to make sure that, folks know how important it is for us to hear those gobbles on a spring morning, and without our involvement, it could potentially not be a thing, so. Absolutely.
And that's how you can kind of tell the true passion behind it is making sure that you protect what you love, and as a resource that is, like you said, you can't breathe life back into them. And the whole objective of what gets us up in the mornings, especially during spring, is the thought of grabbing one by the feet, on a walkout, and just the experience you were able to get from them, and appreciate the life that is at the expense for all this adrenaline and the nourishment and stuff that. And
it's probably worth mentioning too, like, turkey hunting's become popular over the last couple of years. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's become popular, and with that popularity, you've had brands like myself, like you. There's a handful of other brands out there, and I think it's important that if we're going to create a brand centered around turkeys and essentially the killing of them, if you just get down to it, I mean, we got to lead by example. And I think it's important for all of us to do that, all of us to be involved in conservation efforts, and, make it as cool as killing them. I wish as many people were excited about saving turkeys as they were about making cute memes about how lethal they are, and about how you better not give them the keys to your gate and all that kind of silliness. I wish there was as many people passionate about, creating habitat and making sure that your agency's making the right moves, and making sure your conservation organizations are looking into the right places, and making sure that our funding for our turkeys isn't being rerouted to something that the higher up would rather see. It's just being involved essentially, and these brands like ours. I mean, if we're gonna, there comes a responsibility. If you want to be known as a turkey hunting brand, then you need to carry yourself and be a light in the night, so that anybody that bumps into you could potentially be the next, could be the next Chamberlain, or be the next Craig Harper, or be the next Will Gould, the people that are looking for the answers, who are, looking at habitat diversity and what works best and what we need. I mean, you can never tell who is going to come in contact with your brand and potentially be the next big thing.
Absolutely.
And when I say big thing, I ain't talking about popularity and celebrity status and nothing about turkey calling. I'm talking about somebody who's putting more turkeys on the ground for everybody to enjoy, and so they'll be here for the long haul. So.
The heroes who we all owe a lot of appreciation to, whether we know it or not, a lot of those folks you mentioned. But speaking with it, I know we've been wrapping it up for an hour, but I keep thinking of things to add in there. I wanted to to shine a little light on the stamp you mentioned the other day of Arkansas. Just something we mentioned on our first podcast of the season, that just talking about folks like folks like you who are just kind of using their platform for good and providing, just information more than anything, not twisting anybody's arm, but that stemmed a conversation between me and the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks. Wound up meeting with one of the guys just yesterday and talking about a lot of stuff they've got going on and questions that they had, and he was just kind of the same, just, we're all kind of working for the same thing, and he was more delighted to hear from someone who can kind of, put a little voice into to some of the stuff that they're thinking about and find out, what would work and what everyday turkey hunters might be willing to participate in and stuff like that, and kind of how to go about it. And, that's their job, is to make sure that the money we give them is going to what we want it to go to and what it's needed to go to, and ensuring that, the stuff we're talking about today is not that doesn't have to always begin with remember when or back then. We can keep making these stories and producing this content and passing it on down for years to come.
Yeah, and I just urge people, like, conversation, man. I think it's just huge. Here again, I learn as I go, and keeping your ears open. The whole saying, you get 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Keeping your ears open and conversation can be so beneficial. Learning, I learn stuff every day by just trying to just listen more. The big splash is what I'm always like, trying to back up and look at what could make a big splash. The Save the Leg shirt.
Yep.
I've got this little shirt. I'm hoping to raise some money for turkey conservation on the research project, Turkeys for Tomorrow, which could potentially give us some of those answers that we're looking for, so that we can better address the situations that we're going through here. The funding is one thing, to try to just shovel some funds, keep those buckets, full, or keep adding the funds that are necessary to keep those projects alive. Also, just the motivation behind the whole trapping thing. I know that make a landscape level impact with coon cuff traps would be extremely difficult. You're not going to take care of the turkey population issues with trapping alone. I think we realize that. We know that. My argument is always a dead coon's not going to eat a turkey egg this spring. You can say that with certainty. But that being said, we understand the data and the numbers and just trying to be realistic. But all that being said, exactly. But the thing is, those big splash things, like I just like the turkey stamp, like what Jeremy's doing over in Arkansas, and you're in Mississippi, right?
Right.
Is that right? So you got Adam over there who is, he's
that's
an
what
avid
I was
turkey
with yesterday.
Hunter, so. Yeah, he's
down.
just an avid turkey hunter, so he gets it. So you guys in Mississippi are really lucky.
He is a cool
we
guy.
got Steve in Alabama, who is an avid turkey hunter. So we've got some good folks, and in some of these agencies, you've got really good folks who are turkey hunters. And I think that's important. And so everybody's got their own ideas, and I think the big splash, like I just saw like I said, the Save the Legs, the traps, I know that's not going to make a landscape level impact. Is it going to help? I seem to think so. Just getting back to a dead coon's not going to take any of the turkey eggs that we want to hatch. But that being said, the landscape level stuff, the big picture stuff would be like the stamp and creating a fund that we could steamroll into a cost share program. And the next thing you know, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, everybody's got one of these cost share programs like Florida has in place.
Yep.
It's impacting literally millions of acres a year. That's the kind of landscape impact I want to see, that I think would eventually help these turkeys. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah. And even and stuff like that is exponential. Just and that's, it's hard to put a value on, just information or content or something, but the fact that it can change mindsets is, in my mind, a huge, it really is exponential. You change a bunch of people's mindsets towards turkey hunting and the realization of the fragileness to the resource that we're talking about, and a kick into high gear. When you blend that with a community as passionate as turkey hunters are about what they love and And the ones that really love turkey hunting really, really love it, and providing them with ways to give back. I think, you get the right people making things known. You got a chance to really get some sure enough nitty-gritty dudes behind some good causes, and I think you're doing that, which is awesome.
Man, I hope so. I hope at the end of the day that's what people will remember for. I could care less if people say, man, that Dave Owen, he's a turkey killer. Like he's hard on them. I could care less. I don't want to be known as, man, that Dave Owens, he can sure you up one up. He can blow that turkey call. He's got X amount of trophies and whatever. I could care less. I hope people look at the end of this thing, and I hope they say he loved them and he cared about them and he wanted there to be more there when he left than when he got there.
Absolutely.
That's what I hope. I mean, so yeah, I mean, look for more conservation stuff. I mean, I'm working on a little something. Obviously, I've done, like you said, the backwoods grind coffee. The Turkeys for Tomorrow gets I think a portion of theirs, and all of my percentage off of that coffee goes straight. I mean, that's been a considerable chunk of change that we've sent toward those research projects just through the coffee alone. This shirt is already adding up to be a little chunk of change to help with those. Just working on a little deal with the Alabama NWTF chapter to do a little something similar with them, a little project. Just just like I said, just trying to lead by example. And I think anybody that wants to be in the turkey hunting space should do the same.
Yep, I'm with you, brother. Well, I'm out of bullet points, Dave. Unless you got anything else you want to throw in there.
No, man. I think we've brushed over just about everything, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so. But folks, we definitely appreciate you listening in, and I highly encourage you to subscribe to Dave's YouTube channel if you haven't already, and follow him on all the social media accounts. You will not be mad that you did, because you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to bring you back to a bunch of stuff, sights and sounds that you recognize quite well, and kind of take your mind to those places that we live for every spring. Dave, I mean, I think you're a good inspiration for a lot of folks that are in the industry, and I hope you accomplish all that you're out there for, especially the saving as many turkeys as you kill part, because I think you headed in the right direction. Absolutely.
Well, we got ground to make up, my man. I will not deny that. So we're going to continue plugging away, and I appreciate the time, and it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I really hope y'all appreciated our conversation with Dave we had. It's just an honor to talk to somebody as experienced as he is in the woods, and just somebody that cares for the wild turkey like he does. Just one that I think we reached out several months ago about some potential guests y'all wanted to hear from this season. Safe to say, Dave was probably at the top of that list. So, and some of the stuff that he mentioned that I had not heard at the time, kind of the reasoning why he does hunt the way he hunts, and somebody that's obsessed with the wild turkey and hunting the wild turkey and saving the wild turkey for each generation. That's, he's talking the talk and walking the walk in my book.
Doing a good job of it.
Yep, knocking out the park. So good to have brands like that, or folks like that in the industry. It's nothing but good come out of it. Seals, you want to go ahead and wrap things up?
Yeah, we got the open season countdown brought to you by Open Season Properties. If you're looking to buy or sell land anywhere in the state of Mississippi, you can give Hunter or I a call. We can get you fixed up. Our contact information we found in the show notes. And with that, there are 48 days until opening day of turkey season here in Mississippi.
Count them on down.
Yep.
But I want to remind y'all to come swing by our booth at the National Wild Turkey Federation Convention and Sports Show in Nashville, Tennessee, February 17th through 19th. We'll be at booth 304. We'll have a podcast booth. We'll have a couple other things going on, and we're going to have some guests at the booth too. We'll keep that a surprise, I guess you'd say.
You have to come and see.
Yep. But yeah, guys, we're looking forward to seeing a lot of y'all. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Y'all reach out, holler at us, give us some questions, shoot us some reviews if you get the chance. Subscribe, follow, like, share, all that good stuff. We greatly appreciate it. Find us on any social at Spring Legion, springlegion.com for anything else. And we will see y'all next week. Thanks again for listening to the Spring Legion podcast.